Thank you all so much for having me. I think I can understand most of your emotions at this moment. See, I'm a teacher. I was born the first moment that a question leaped from the mouth of a child. During the course of the day, I'm called upon to be a lawyer, a doctor, a politician, finder of lost items, lunch money lender, substitute parent, keeper of the faith. I follow Twitter, I check Facebook, and I'm still the most fortunate of all who labor. Who do I have to thank for this wonderful opportunity? It is the parents who entrust me with their greatest treasure. Perhaps they don't send what I consider to be what I want, but I am certain they send their best. They send all they have. I can't control the conditions in which they arrive, but I'm solely responsible for the conditions in which I allow them to leave. When I drove up on campus today, I had so many mixed emotions. I can still remember Dr. King saying, "Tyrone, I need to see you in my office." I still remember Dr. Bird standing out front, greeting our kids as they came in for summer camp, smiling and shaking hands and speaking with parents. I remember Dr. Howard asking me to explain the rationale. And I remember the custodial staff waking me up in the computer lab to ask, "Did anyone miss you? Are you going home?" Those were the days. You never know. You never know when someone might catch a dream from you. You never know when a little word or something that you might do may open up a window or the mind that seeks the light. The way you teach may not matter at all, but you never know, it might. And just in case it could be that another's life through you might change for the better with a broader and brighter view, it seems it might be worth a try to do what you know is right. The way you teach may not matter at all, but you never know, it might. I know most of you have not slept in the last 3 weeks. Your family are seeing you for the first time without a Google Doc, a flash drive, a Praxis study guide. Many of you thought that Mooney was your temporary residence. You all know your professors by name, and many of you have memorized their office hours. You've sat in your car some days on the parking lot and decided whether or not you were going to go in. Your child care providers have become moms and dads for many of your kids. But why do this? Because you are teacher leaders. Because you never want to be known as simply proficient. You want to be distinguished. You want to be accomplished. You are committed to the matter at hand, and that is educating our students across this great state. If any of you play golf, you can never improve your game by simply focusing on the score. As teachers, it will take more than test scores to change. It is an uncompromising dedication to each one of our students. See, parents have taken the time to give them names because numbers simply reflect the data. Names create the personal connection that is needed. I like laughter, so here we go for just a second. You are a real teacher if you move your dinner partner's glass away from the edge of the table. You are a real teacher if you repeat everything. I mean, you say everything twice and then you ask, does everyone understand? You are a real teacher if you buy your Excedrin and your Advil at Sam's. If your best conferences are held on the parking lot. And if you have at least 2 bags that have your name, your initials, or whatever items in the bag, and you write your name on everything, your keys, masking tape, your chair, and all of your textbooks. And you are a real teacher if you want to slap the next person who says, it must be nice to work from 8 to 3 with summers off. So I'm in the right place. I stand before you not because I think that I'm anyone great, but I've had great educators along the way. I can still remember my grandmother whispering in my ear that when you go to school, you need to listen to your teachers because they have what you need. And I can remember becoming bold enough one day to ask my grandmother, what did Miss Rozier have? And she said, your opportunity. She said, there are many things in life that you will gain from a teacher. Many ways they will make you better. So on this morning, I say to you, thank you for holding the opportunity of your students. Thank you for believing in every one of them. See, educating everybody will take everybody. I can remember my grandmother would ask my teachers if they were believers. And that was a politically loaded question, and many of them would kind of shuffle and not answer. But my grandmother would say, it's okay because your actions will reveal your belief. She said, my baby doesn't look good on paper. See, sometimes you may have to come early and you may have to stay late. You might have to read to her or read for her. But if you educate her, it will create options. See, many of you don't know this, but the road out of poverty, it runs by your schools. Every one of your students needs you, and they need you to show up. They need you to be prepared. Elon University has given you what you're going to need to be teacher leaders. It has given you what you're going to need to make sure each and every one of your students have the full opportunity to be educated, to have the choices in life. I hope that each day as you plan your lessons, you plan that your students will one day sit where you are. See, we all begin with the end in mind. Each of my students are required to have 3 E's beside their name. You're either going to be employed, enlisted, or enrolled. And I am solely responsible for the path in which they will travel. My son Kendall is 6, and he wears a shirt and tie to school 3 or 4 days a week, and when he was asked why, he said, because school is business. I take my tie off twice a day on the playground and at lunch because I want to look good at the end of the day. And he also said, my teacher never comes in play clothes because this is business, and she takes it personal. So I say to each one of you, please take it personal. For the student that you can't reach, the question becomes, can I not reach the student, or are they unreachable? Because if there is any glimpse, any hope, any chance that that student can succeed, it is up to you to find a way. Give your students your children's name, because if they're your children, you take it personal, and you're going to make sure they have the opportunity to succeed. So for every child that has been written off in your building, you simply say, not on my watch. And if there are children who have labels, replace it with potential, because if something has potential, you treat it differently. So a learning disability becomes learning potential. A writing disability becomes writing potential. Because as long as there is potential, you will continue to strive. Think about it. Each one of us only remember 2 types of teachers, the best and the worst. How do you choose to be remembered? If each of your students only had 6 words that they could use to sum up what you mean to them, what will those words be? Because they only remember the best and the worst. And if you don't think time matters, ask a child who's been retained. Each of you have the core business of educating students. Is it easy? By no means. Are there days that you feel like your check engine light is on and you're still being driven? Yes. But there is a student that needs you. For many of the students, you may be all they have. It is building the relationships and creating the opportunity to educate them that makes you powerful. Again, you are a part of the most noble of all professions. I have a poem that I would like to share with you. It is by Benjamin Mays, and it says, I have only just a minute. There is only 60 seconds in it. It is forced upon me, can't refuse it, didn't seek it, didn't choose it. But it is up to me to use it. Give an account if I lose it. Suffer if I abuse it. It is just a tiny little minute, but there is eternity in it. So if I asked each one of you on today, how do you plan to spend your minute? You can spend your minutes complaining. You can spend your minute feeling sorry. Or we can spend our minutes educating students, creating the opportunity for them to be successful. At the end of most of my speeches, I sum up what it means to be a teacher by a young lady who I refer to as my oxygen. Her name is Brooklyn. About 2.5 years ago, I joined my school's running club, and I had the opportunity to be a guide for a young lady who was blind. I'm not a runner. I run very ugly. But she explained she couldn't see me anyway, so it was okay. But as we trained for this race, I had to tell her when to go, when to stop, how fast, how slow. But what I'm telling you is nothing new because you do it every day in your classroom. Your students show up there with blind faith. The night before the race, her mother called and asked if I could pick her up because Brooklyn was afraid I wouldn't show up. How many of your students are afraid that you won't show up? that they need you there. You're their voice of reason. You're the person who takes care of them. You're the one cheerleader they have. And as the race began, her mother and her grandmother drove to every intersection and screamed her name. And one time I did lie, and I told her we were winning, but she told me she was blind and not deaf, and she could hear people running by us. So, teachers, we celebrate. But right before we crossed the finish line, she said to me, I have absolutely no idea at the beginning of this race where you were going to take me. I had to trust you to get me to the right place. So if I had to leave you with a thought on this morning, it would be, your students must get to the right place. You need to give them the tools and the strategies, every possible advantage, and every opportunity to finish the race. You can't control any of the background, the family dynamics. Many of our students don't even understand budget. I know we're taking less and making more. But there is a Taquan who needs to be educated. There is a Tyronna that will be born in the morning. There is a Brooklyn that will need you. So for every reason why you chose to teach, is every reason why you chose to get your master's, is every reason why you've chosen to be a teacher leader. So at the end of the day, you ask yourself, how am I going to spend my minute? And who are you supposed to get to the right place? Congratulations and thank you.